I'd like to call to order the June 11th, 2022 Bayport City Council meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Second.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adam, please call the roll.
Mayor St. Orders.
Here.
Councilmember Gilmore. Here. Councilmember Hanson.
Here.
Councilmember Carlson.
Here.
Councilmember Dahl.
Here.
All present.
Great. That takes us to the approval of tonight's agenda. Does anyone have any questions or changes? Adam?
Madam Mayor, we did not get to the item during our previous workshop that we just finished. So there was one item that I'd like to request the council add to the regular business regarding the Centennial Project.
Okay. Anything else? If not, would someone like to make a motion to approve that, the agenda with that addition?
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution with the addition, or the consent agenda with the addition of the centennial discussion.
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
I'll second. Oh, go ahead, Ethan.
We'll go with Ethan. Thank you, Ethan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Takes us to our proclamations, commendations, petitions, and announcements. And the June Recycling Award recipient is Lauren Cole at 532 Prairie Way South. This award for recycling efforts is made possible by a grant from Washington County. So thank you, Ms. Cole, for your recycling efforts. We have an open forum where we set aside 15 minutes to discuss topics that are not on tonight's agenda. Does anyone, we do not have anyone in chambers this evening. Is there anyone online? Is that even a possibility?
No, we do not have that.
Okay. All right, so we will promptly move along to our consent agenda to consider resolution adopting items 1 through 10. The June 6, 2022 City Council regular meeting minutes, the June 27th, 2022 City Council workshop special meeting minutes, the June payables and receipts, the June building, plumbing, mechanical, and zoning permits report, the appointment of election judges for the 2022 primary and general elections, awarding a quote for seal coating and crack filling streets and slurry sealing park trails, renewal of a 2 a.m. liquor license for Woody's Bar and Grill located at 109 3rd Street North, a temporary on-sale liquor license from Stillwater Knights of Columbus for the Anderson Corporation Quarter Century Club Picnic on Saturday, August 13th, 2022 in Lakeside Park, a special event application from the Boy Scout Troop 113 for a pumpkin sale on October 8th, 2022, and a wreath sale on November 19th, 2022 at the Village Green Park. And then finally, the annual funding contribution of $1,600 to the Youth Service Bureau. Any changes or questions to the consent agenda?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to note there was a discrepancy in the annual number 10 of the consent agenda in the resolution that has been corrected. The correct amount was $1,600, not $1,575.
Okay. Any other changes? If not, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution as prepared.
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Connie. We have a roll call vote because we're approving expenses.
Councilmember Dahl.
Aye.
Councilmember Carlson.
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilmore.
Aye.
Mayor St. Orders.
Aye.
As all.
We do not have a public hearing this evening, and we do not have any unfinished business, so we will move to the new business item that was just added, talking about the centennial topic. So over to you, Adam.
That's not plugged in.
1 minute.
Well, the council has this page in front of you. It's not really necessary for the public to view it, but unfortunately I don't have the camera on. We had discussed back at a workshop some time ago about possibly doing some type of gazebo or some type of structure at the Village Green in recognition of the Bayport's naming centennial this year. Staff has done some research on that, as well as Councilmember Hanson with the BCAL, and I wanted to give the council a couple updates on that. This was, as the mayor noted and I mentioned, this was a discussion topic at our workshop immediately preceding this meeting, but we did not get to it, so I wanted to update the council now. For a gazebo, the couple different cost estimates that we got both from local as well as around the country that would ship here is in the $20,000 to $35,000 range for multiple sizes. We just got a quote for a hexagonal 24-foot pavilion through St. Croix Recreation, and that was $30,000 to $35,000. Now that does not include installation. As we've been discussing this, one of the questions that came up is how best, what would the amount of use be for this type of structure? Depending on what type of structure it is, we wanted to obviously maximize the use for both the public as well as the city at this facility. And the goal of this was to do fundraising and not have the city directly pay for this, but have the community contribute and do some fundraising for this special project. Councilmember Hanson with the BCL had actually asked, and we did get a kind of the go-ahead to make a request from the American Legion for up to half of the potential cost. But I wanted to talk to the council and see if this is something, before we formally ask or start requesting money from outside parties, if there's what the desired level still would be for this location as well as this type of structure. The gazebo, a traditional gazebo, regardless of the size, is going to have limited use options. They're pretty, they're very aesthetically appealing. We wanted to do some type of commemorative recognition of the centennial incorporated into this, but since we haven't got that far, but as staff kind of worked on this and researched this, that may not be the most have the widest possible use, that type of structure. So then we discussed having maybe some type of pavilion, similar to like we have at Lakeside, where picnic tables in there. It can be used for multiple uses. We have the farmers market there. Every Monday today we had it there. Hope some people got out and were able to enjoy that. But something like that would have much wider use. We haven't talked about whether or not the city would have it as a reservable facility, but that would be one potential option. You have highway traffic, but it is a nice location. It's doesn't have the view of the river, but it's a great location. So there is potential that it could be used. The map that you have in front of you shows the space, the Village Green, the little building with the 400. That is the pump house. That's where the water is. The pink, the pink extensions, those are electrical lines. The light blue going kind of diagonal across is an overhead telecom, I believe, line. The red coming out of the well house is water line. The yellow is that sanitary sewer, Matt?
Storm sewer.
Storm sewer, sorry. So the sewer and the water lines are not easily moved, and we have to be careful where we put the structure in regards to those. The electrical obviously is much easier to move, and the overhead line can be moved. But this will give you kind of a rough idea of where the utilities would be in placing any type of structure in this space. If that white dot, or not white dot, that white rectangle next to the pump house, that's a picnic table. Obviously that can be easily moved. We were trying to decide where we would potentially put this. Would it be that along the highway, there's the sign with the landscaping there. That landscaping does need to be redone, but the sign can be moved if we did want to move it, if we had to. Currently, as the council knows, the lighting of the Village Green that's one of the big events that the city participates in, along with sponsored by the BCL. That we actually use the Village Green for an organized event. The Christmas trees, or the evergreen trees that we have set up now are right in the middle, but those can be relocated if we wanted to. There is a tree that has the one pink line going off. It would be to the west. That one likely will need to come down in the future. It's not healthy, so that one will have to be removed. So that'll give us a little bit more space. This is, we have, the pump house is approximately 20 by 20, just to give you an idea of where the, kind of the scale on this map that I handed out. So one of the questions that I wanted to talk with the council, and normally this would be a workshop setting, so it's a little more casual, but the city didn't think it would be responsible to spend, upward in the installation. We're estimating maybe even equal to the amount of the structure itself. So we're looking at possibly $60,000 for some type of pavilion installed. Now there would be cost savings if the staff was able to help with that, but again, there are limited things that we can do, both for time and ability. But if the council wants the staff to continue working on this, if there was a direction based on that initial information that we were able to obtain, Councilmember Hansen, as part of the BCL, was going to make a formal request to start soliciting funding, outside funding, and so that, as I said, before we start doing that, I wanted to get kind of an update on where the council is at regarding this potential project. We don't have this, budgeted or in the CIP currently, so we don't have funds dedicated to this at this point. But if we're only using the structure for the lighting of the Village Green, that alone, that one event a year, that probably isn't the best use of the city funds, taxpayer funds. So if a structure that could be used by the public in a much broader sense may be a better idea.
Yeah, is it open
Go ahead.
I definitely like the idea of doing something there. I think a pavilion for a multitude of reasons makes more sense, even though aesthetically, and maybe what I would say, of course, cost comes into it, but something a little more aesthetically pleasing than our typical pavilion, something a little more decorative, and make it kind of a focal point of the center of our city. I think, having something, I envision it in my mind's eye kind of maybe on the north end, and then, if maybe kids wanted to do some play or something, or there was a small musical act that could kind of aim to the south or something, rather than plop it right in the middle. That's kind of how I see it. Certainly on what's going on there right now, farmers market days, it's going to be, if there's picnic tables in there, it's going to be filled with people eating and hanging out, and I think we would get a tremendous support for people wanting to contribute to something like that, especially if we can show them some pictures of what it would look like. I also think you talked about maybe the landscaping, maybe an overall have a garden center or something, maybe do an overall plan of here's maybe how we could rearrange some furniture. It sounds like a tree needs to go away, and if we need to do something different with the sign to make it all tied together. But yeah, a structure that's kind of in keeping with some of the other more aesthetically pleasing structures in town. So I think it's a pretty great idea in my opinion.
With Councilmember Dahl, we were looking at something a little more ornate than just the standard pavilion that we have. Obviously, we don't, it's finding that balance of what we want it to blend in to complement the rest of the city design, but it is special. So something a little more ornate, something a little more decorative.
And hopefully, some light in the maintenance area, maybe something that
Yes.
doesn't need to be stained, and
Yes, I agree.
maybe a steel roof or some roofing material that's really long-term, and also those are usually more aesthetically pleasing too.
Yeah. John, you've said like everything that we kind of came to a conclusion on when Adam and I met, like just leaning towards the pavilion, making sure it's something that's nicer looking than a typical one. Even potentially maybe some kind of a signage on it that says like Bayport or, something that gives it an extra little appeal.
I could see the school using it.
Yeah,
having
exactly. The
story time,
school,
Jill.
the church
the
right
library.
across the street
Yep.
might want to use it. Obviously, you mentioned lighting of the green. The scouts just had it on our agenda tonight, are selling pumpkins and wreaths. Maybe they could
Perfect
use
place to
it.
set up on a reef. all day.
Obviously, the farmers market. I just feel like I feel like the park right now, it doesn't have enough use, and if we put something there, build it, they will come, or whatever, that whole thing. I feel like it could be a nice addition. It's just the money, obviously, if we can raise enough to make that happen. And if you guys agree that it's a good idea, because we have other priorities too, I understand, but it's also our centennial, and we want to do something special. So if you have other ideas, if there's something in Peril Park you'd like to see or whatever, I just want to do something. Connie looks like she wants to.
No. I was just gonna say I would opt for a pavilion versus the gazebo for several reasons. Some of the same John said, but also it would be something that if we decided to use as a revenue, you could rent out. And I would tell you, like, we'll take the older kids from the preschool even and go across, and they'll sit on the ground over there on blankets and have a picnic. So, I'd rent it out at a point. I just think it would be well used, and it's kind of right in the center of
Absolutely.
the city. I know if you've ever gone to the park up at Washington Park, they've got some more, I'm not saying exactly like that, but they're a little bit more.
Yeah,
ornate,
that's a good idea to look at those. I think they might be wood, but
Well, they're
the
white.
idea of them.
They're white, but I'm not sure
think
if they're
the roofs are
white.
Are they?
I think they're more of a maintenance-free.
Yeah, I feel like they are too.
That's a really good
but-
idea because they do look nice.
Yeah.
They're
Really
like
nice.
kind of special.
So I guess when you're first talking about gazebo before you got the pavilion, I thought, I would.
I know, and I think that's
Gazebo
what was
looks
hard
good.
for me too. I kept going, what is a
I
gazebo
mean, a
going to
gazebo's
get enough
cute, but
use? Yeah.
I don't know that you get as much use out of it.
I think it'd
So,
be cute for the lighting of the green, and then that
Yeah.
would be it. Like kind of decorate it and all that. But yeah, the pavilion is a much better idea.
I mean, it's nice, and even for a family that's maybe traveling and they're driving through town and they don't know where Lakeside Park is, and they're coming down 95, and they want to stop and have their picnic lunch or just get out and stretch and whatever, sit at a table. I don't know. I think it's a great idea.
So do we know, is
And even
that
the
same
library.
price point, basically? One of these versus,
Well, that's what we were, when he was quoting those numbers, we had already leaned toward the pavilion when we got some of those numbers, so yeah.
It was about the same,
Gazebo
but with
versus a
the
pavilion
installation
is about the
costs. So the materials are pretty equal, but the pavilion, depending on what's being done, do we want any type of raised platform? We probably want some type of, even just a foot or two.
Well, we gotta think about ADA compliance and things like that too. I'd rather, if we can keep it, maybe.
Well, yeah, we would have to have some type of
Oh, if
ramp.
it were a gazebo, is that what
So
you're
the size is, I guess, one of the other questions that we were, and I'm sorry, I don't have a map with a scale of placing whatever type of structure we're talking about. We can come up with that, I've been trying to find a good aerial map that shows it, and
It does help
Not
to
had a
know
lot
the
of luck.
pump house is like 20 by 20 though,
Yeah, I mean,
You
that's
know,
not way
that's-
off. Oh,
That's about the size, maybe a
gonna be in the
tiny bit bigger
ballpark.
than that you might want, I would think.
Because
But
how large are the pavilions at Lakeside?
we
I know
we
we've
went up
asked,
and
and
looked,
we
Ben and
keep-
I looked, and we thought maybe like, I think
20 by 30?
20
by
by
30
30, but then,
is-
you know, the concrete pad is wider than the actual pavilion, so depends on what you're kind of measuring there, but
But and so it wouldn't have to necessarily be that large, but that kind of that size, you could place that, at that north end or
wherever.
Right.
Yeah, that was just my idea.
Yeah.
To have it on one end to kind
Yeah,
of.
instead of the middle.
It'd be more
The
visible
middle is
that way as
slightly-
well.
The green takes up a lot of
Yeah.
this, the people are spread out quite.
Could completely have, the choir could be under there, kind of facing south, and the fire pit off to the side somewhere.
and I had kind of been thinking the other direction, having it face the other way, but that's an interesting
maybe, yeah,
idea too,
yep.
because people come into town from the other side and could see it. Maybe they'd see it even better.
I don't.
know.
I like your idea, facing east. You're talking.
Well,
about
no,
that?
I was just like maybe by the pump house kind of, or I was kind of looking at the middle, but then you're right. If you have a show or something, if you want to have music, I don't know. We actually have
If you,
some
had
of
it, if you had it right behind the sign and all that, yeah, it'd be a little bit hidden, but then people
could
could
face
look,
that
they
way,
could face
yeah.
it, and it would be right in the center.
So the good news is that what's his name, Christopher Johnson from St. Croix Rec
Rec.
has helped us with other playgrounds, and he has he was actually going to meet me last Thursday, but we weren't sure if we wanted to do this yet. And he can go out and he'll take photographs of the site and kind of help us figure out the best location for things. So he seemed like a really good partner for us to work on this with. So, I don't think we have to decide anything right now, but I think he could give us some good ideas about it.
And I guess that's the feedback I'm looking for the council at this point is
Do we want to keep
continue going down this path
stuff?
versus either, unless you've completely changed your mind, switch gears, go some other direction, or we were going away from the gazebo. Now we're kind of recommending, or we think that some type of pavilion, multi-use pavilion would be a better option. And I guess how realistic the council still is as far as the opinion of this is something that we want to pursue and continue to look into.
I think, let's just say it goes crazy and it comes in at 100,000, but I think when it's presented to people, if we really sold that, I know my family would certainly make a donation to something like that. Maybe it's got pavers in there and you sell the pavers with people's names on it type deal. People go crazy for those kinds of things, and I think we'd be surprised how well we would do on fundraising.
I feel like
That
you were
being
listening to
said-
our conversation, John. We said all the same
Yeah,
thing.
I think people really get behind those things, so
Yeah, that's good.
it would really be the cities and whoever wants to contribute to it.
Well, and I've even seen people would get ice cream over at Mabel's, and when there's no seating, I've seen them walk across and sit
Sit at the
on the
playground.
playground or whatever. So I mean,
And we
Yes,
do
that
have that intersection is one of our controlled, that's
That
one
crossing
of the signals there
is-
too, so.
Well, and the library could do activities there too. They don't really have a good outdoor space
No,
near
no.
them. So, I just feel like there's so many opportunities for it. Again, it's all about, can we afford it?
Well, and if it's fundraising, then it's a matter of figuring out how much it would cost and raising those funds until they are in hand.
Right.
So,
Like as I said, we were waiting to get back some additional cost options and different styles of structure. The first one that we got was as I said, a 24-foot hexagonal pavilion, and that was the 30 to 35, and then another 20 to 30 in installation. But again, we may be able to save some with the staff's help of installation, but that size we wouldn't want to go bigger than that, but that's probably got a similar cost estimate for this type. So,
and factoring in picnic tables to be donated and sponsored as well, and garbage cans, and all those things could have the labels of the donators on them.
Mhm.
So,
And then we also do need to be more serious about having like a porta potty at that park than if we're gonna have a place for people to hang out too. We don't have any, right now they have to go to the library or the Peril Park
Yeah, that's a,
porta potty.
Yeah, we would, if we were to put one, we may put it down, I guess would be to the south by the pump house. And we'd have another type of structure surround the,
could keep completely.
Maybe tap our Boy
enclose it.
Scouts to build another.
Yeah.
enclosure.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I think that would get used a lot, quite frankly.
okay, was there any other feedback that the council had on this specific item?
No, I agree. The gazebo, I didn't ever really think it was gonna get used a lot, so I like the pavilion better.
Cool.
Excellent. Okay, that's all I had for this item. Thank you.
Great. Very good. All right, that takes us to our city council liaison reports. So, Michelle, start with you this time.
So there was no planning commission meeting, but John and I did go to the Middle St. Croix Valley Regional Trail Master Plan meeting. I can't remember when it was, but it happened a couple weeks ago maybe. Very interesting, and it was, so they actually have hired a consultant that's working with them, and the idea is to connect the trail system that's in Afton now to the one that's, you know, in Stillwater, and we're in between there. And there's also, didn't even realize it, but a little bit of West Lakeland that crosses over, and a little bit of Baytown Township even is over there. So anyway, so they had representatives from each of the cities. It's a, what was it? It's a 14-mile stretch, and 11 cities
Pulling up
Are-
my notes right now.
are in, that would have to kind of come together to come to an agreement on how to connect all this. So this was really just high-level questions about what we see as kind of opportunities, what we see as sort of hindrances to making that work, and how we think it should be used. And I'm like looking at my notes, but really well-led discussion, and I think we had lots of, you know, good ideas at our table. We were with Oak Park Heights and Baytown.
Yep.
And they had some little groups that met and came up with, you know, like things like, oh, well, Blueberry Hills there, that might be something interesting for people to see if they're on a trail, and, you know, things that this consulting company wouldn't have any idea about what's going on. Or John was great about saying, oh, well, they're missing our little trail right here that, you know, should be on this map, and things like that. So just really an informational session. And John, you want to add?
Yeah,
that?
you know, if anybody listening or anybody here, I don't know if you mentioned, it's got a heck of a name, Middle St. Croix Regional Trail Master Plan. So I'm sure if you went on the county's website, you could get directed there. One of the things discussed pertinent to Bayport was, you know, and you could see this on the, you know, we had a very large map that took up the entire table, kind of how our trails in town are segmented, and similar to Baytown has some segmented trails, but you could see opportunities where, hey, if we continued this trail here, it would be right across from Baytown, and ways to connect trails with the other communities. Oak Park, for example, is a city that has done a pretty nice job making sure their trails are connected. So they're a little, I felt like, ahead of the game, or maybe they had planned better that way, or just happened that way. But Michelle hit on most of the stuff. Yeah, you mentioned, yeah, it's a 14-mile corridor between the boom site, which I think most people know, and Afton. So, and there's a lot going on in that 14-mile stretch. You know, challenges, open space, confined spaces, and so yeah, great discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And I, as far as liaison, I didn't meet Middle St. Croix. WMO did not meet last month, so we have a meeting this Thursday. So I don't have anything else to report.
Did you get a sense that we're invited back again to talk about this?
I kind of did.
I feel like we would be too,
I
so
think
we'll
we
give
might
you an
have one
update
more
if
at least.
there's more.
Great. Well, that's 2 of our council members, and thank you very much for that. It'd be exciting. I know everybody's been looking for opportunities for trails, and it is a challenge, but it's really nice that all the cities and the county are coming together, so thank
And we
you.
did talk about the Excel decommissioning so that, the consultants have that on their brain, that the railroad tracks may potentially be open in the future. I think it's beyond when they would actually be finalizing this master plan, so I'm not sure if they can use that information or not, but at least they know about it.
Great. Ethan?
We did not meet, so I have nothing to report.
Okay, great. And Connie?
Well, the library board did meet in June. Our main topic was to review the upcoming project and the timeline for it. And then we kind of discussed some color designs, kind of agreed on a few, to leave it up to the end people, but we picked out a few. So that's kind of exciting. And then we talked about like Jill mentioned earlier, there's gonna be a ribbon cutting on August 8th at 4 o'clock. So that's really exciting. And then June was a great month for events for the kids. She had something every Thursday and then one Monday, and the kids, I shouldn't say yet, they were all very well attended. I was able to make it over to 2 of them. And the fun one was for me anyway, it was a summer dance party, but it was more of a summer balloon bashing. She had balloons dropped from the ceiling and music playing, but the kids found more fun taking the balloons and whacking each other with them. And as an adult, it was kind of fun to sit back and watch them. But anyway, she had a lot of fun activities for the kids in June. And they'll meet again here hopefully, in July, the 17th at 6. So,
Great. Yeah, she has great programming.
yeah.
All year long.
But it's funny, like I said, it was hysterical. You have the little teeny 2-year-olds running around grabbing balloons from the big kids, and then they go over and whack. I mean, it was entertaining, to say the least. So.
Super. I have a few items. First, I'd like to congratulate the BCAL on a fabulous ice cream social. I have never seen so many people attend the ice cream social, and the park was packed, and it was just a delightful small town gathering. So congratulations to everybody on the BCAL. It was great. That same evening, I had the honor of attending Pete Orput's Celebration of Life.